Hey everybody, welcome to episode 126. For this video I wanted to, I've been reading a lot of the comments of other people's website or other people's channels and about this whole Hasbro deal thing that's gone down with the layoffs and the closing of one of their headquarters and blah blah blah. So I've been reading a lot of I'm listening to other people's takes and reading the comments. I kind of listening to all the different, the rhetoric involved, all the talking heads talking about everything. And I figured I'd just do a video to pretty much give my opinion. It's easier than, I guess if you want to hear it. Obviously, when I did the my take on modern action figures and kind of like my current where my current collection sits and my current hobby for me. And so I read this. I didn't go super into the actual detail, and I don't know. I'm assuming this is pretty correct. And also let me put this: I'm not a expert in business, and I didn't go to business school. I try to run my own business the best of my abilities, but I don't really have any specific. I mean, I've worked for businesses, and I've worked for corporations before, and I kind of know how this goes. And I think I'm not saying that there's there's an exact reason for all of this. I think it's a combination of like a perfect storm. I think there's a lot of things, in the last few years, especially since the big fiasco, the pandemic. I think that a lot of things happened that nobody could foresee happening, and I think now everybody's just reacting, and you're reacting to not necessarily always damage control, but obviously with this it's damage control. Sometimes you're just reacting to the opposite, to this huge prosperity coming out of nowhere, and what do? So I think I don't think anybody could really plan for this type of event that happened, and its subsequent effect on a lot of different things. I mean, a lot of things that I am interested in. I mean, obviously, Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast reported that it had been the best year. I mean, I've said this before, but they've had their best year in 2020 or 21. I think it was 20, or maybe it was 21. I think it was 21. They did their best year in 1 year than the entire existence of Dungeons and Dragons. So think about since the 70s until now, so 40, 50 some years, pretty much 50 years, they did more money in 1 year than they did in 50 years of its existence. So who would have thought that, and obviously D&D just got huge. And the problem is, again, people are reacting to the situation, and hopefully that the people working for these companies are educated. I'm not saying they have to all have MBAs from Harvard. I'm just saying, and what does that really mean anyways? But I'm just saying is, hopefully they have some education and they have some experience, more so experience working in the business or in business for a long period of time to, and again, it's something that nobody could foresee, and not a lot of people having a lot of experience for this. I guess unless you were in business back during the Spanish flu, you're probably dead by now. So, I don't know if there's memoirs out there of people who didn't, and I don't know how that affected. They obviously didn't have action figures really back then, and business may not have been affected like it did today. It's hard to tell. I mean, obviously go back into history, but I went from my understanding, or from what I speculate, I don't think that it's anywhere near what happened. So, getting back to the Hasbro today, so they laid off 1,100 people at the worst time at Christmas. But I mean, I'm not going to say but. I mean, it's not. I don't want to, dismiss that at all. I mean, it's very significant. However, that's probably when they're going to lay people off going into the holiday season, because they want to kind of reset anew by the first quarter. And the only way to do that is to, get rid of people. And you got to realize that, and this is just, I don't know a lot about this, but this is just how I see these things happening, and I've read stuff about how, market share works and how, investors work, is in corporations. I mean, I've sat in meetings and stuff for corporations that I've worked for and listened to this whole thing. And I mean, corporations have to they have to constantly grow, and they have to beat last year's numbers. Every year they have to beat each numbers. And if they don't beat the numbers, then investors start pulling out and stocks drop. So in order to keep the money going and keep investors investing and keep everybody happy, they have to constantly show profit and increasing profit. If it goes down, they lose investors, the stock goes down. That's my understanding, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that essentially, I mean, you can get into the particulars and you can talk about whatever, but isn't that essentially how it works? If you don't do as good, it's me. I mean, I look at my numbers. If I don't do as good as I did the last year, I've got to start, trying to figure out how to right the ship, and I got to figure out how to cut costs, especially if I got to a certain level and I was comfortable with that, level, and I had got used to a certain spending habit. Obviously, if the numbers the next year are down, I can't continue to maintain that status quo. I have to cut costs, and I mean, I don't have any employees working for me, but I've got to definitely cut costs on, just living expenses. I obviously can't cut cost on my rent, and I can't cut cost on, I guess I could look for a better phone deal, but I mean, I'm going to save, what, $15? It's not really worth it. Am I going to get better homeowners insurance? Probably not. I've got pretty cheap homeowners insurance. I mean, like I said, I don't have an operating car, so car's not even a cost here. Insurance and stuff. If I did have a car, obviously I could shop around for cheaper insurance, but I'm not in that situation. So I don't have a lot of things to squeeze from. I can't really kind of manipulate my own liabilities very easily, because there's not a lot of them. So, the only thing I can do is stop spending money on stuff, which kind of dovetails into, I think, what's going on a lot with Hasbro, and a lot in all of the consumerism in general. I think a lot of people are down. And so obviously if a major corporation is down a significant amount, then they're going to have to, right the ship. And I guess, like I said, I don't know their business as well, but apparently, they've chosen to get rid of a certain amount of people and shut down a headquarters, or I don't know if it's the main headquarters. It says Providence. I'm assuming it's Providence, Rhode Island. It doesn't really say right off the bat here in the article. Let's see if it says under the picture here. Again, I'm assuming that's what it is. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm assuming it's Providence, Rhode Island. I don't know any other Providences. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I don't know my geography that great. If I have to cut costs, and have to squeeze, then I'm going to have to squeeze, because I have to make up the numbers. I have to figure out my finances, and compensate for losses and compensate for downtime, or downturn in my numbers. So, and then obviously I try to, but I'm not the best at. When the numbers are good, I have a tendency to overspend. Go figure. I think that these people also did the exact same thing. I think numbers were astronomically high, which came out of nowhere, and they started spending, and they started, making all this product, investing in all this stuff, and expecting that the next quarter was going to meet it. And I could only imagine being a fly on the wall if you're in one of these shareholder meetings that they say, "Hey, you guys, we made a huge profit, right?" You would think, don't get me wrong, I'm assuming a lot here. You would think that people who have enough money to invest that kind of money. Shareholders, shareholders, significant shareholders, the people that need to be appeased. You would think that people that spend that much money and invest in, say, a company like Hasbro would be smart enough, because how did they get their money in the first place if they weren't smart? Unless it was just handed to them or complete blind luck, which I'm not saying that didn't happen either. Why wouldn't people, when you explain to people, hey, this is a fluke, these numbers are inflated artificially because of an event that's unprecedented, or at least not precedented in a long time, that you can't promise that it's going to be the same next year. It's a house of cards. It could fall apart. I guess maybe they don't want to hear that, and I guess maybe that's negative corporate speak, which it seems like corporations are always trying to spin everything in positive. So maybe they're not going to say that, but you would think, like, if I was sitting there in a meeting, my current, understanding of the universe, and somebody said, how much did we make this year? Holy crap. I said this when the pandemic happened, and, I started to see companies reporting, record highs. I'm thinking to myself, this can't last. This has got to be a part of everybody's can't do anything. Can't go out to eat, so nobody's spending money on going out to eat. They can't go out, so they're going to spend money on stuff that they can. So they're going to buy stuff, and maybe now it's the time. Hey, I always wanted to get back into Dungeons and Dragons, or what is this Dungeons and Dragons? I watched it on Stranger Things, or hey, I'm on the internet constantly because I'm bored out of my fucking skull, and all I see is people spending buku bucks on records, vinyl records, or buying guitars, or buying, fill in the blank, whatever it is, action figures. Hey, I kind of want to get in on that. That's cool. I'm a Gen X person who grew up with this stuff in the 80s. I want this stuff. And there it happened, and then it just snowballed. So, like I said, you would think that they could, you get a pass, meaning, hey, I know we have to make these numbers every year, but I think people who are just in it for the money, and there's no, in it for the money so far that it goes completely past logic, that it doesn't matter. You could sit there, you could get Mel Gibson to do his Braveheart speech in front of all of the people and say, hey, look, this is what's happening, right? And at the end of the day, as soon as the person stops talking, they pull their money out. Seen it time and time again. People do not act accordingly to logic most of the time, or they act very close to logic. It's kind of a double-edged sword there. You think, hey, that makes sense to me. I think I'm going to keep my money invested in it. I know if probably they figure it out, maybe they'll get my money back. Nope. Nope. They're out of there. And so, and down go the numbers, then they got to start figuring out how to do it. Or in order to keep those investors, most likely in this situation, they've got to cut costs to make up the slack. And if you can cut 1,100 people's paychecks, and all of their, that specific cost, then you can put that money back give it back to the investors, even because you didn't make enough money selling product that year. Business is not a rocket science. Most people who go into business aren't geniuses. It's not like we're going into nuclear physics here, going into AI robotics. These are business people. They're like me. They're maybe slightly above intelligence, and they really like to wear suits. That's pretty much the people. So they're not geniuses. And even if you were a genius, you cannot compensate for human behavior. It's so unpredictable. So, you could be the smartest person in the world, you could understand the secrets of the universe, but when it comes to people involved, you're like, fuck, I quit. Give up. I don't know. Can't possibly predict what people are going to do. Because when you predict it, they always do the opposite of what you think, almost every single time. And then when you expect them to do the opposite, then they end up doing this thing that you did in my head. it's a no-win. It's the Kobayashi Maru. It's a no-win situation. The only way to be like Captain Kirk, the only way to do it is to cheat. Is change the parameters. Get rid of the people. Bring in robots. You know, skunks, squirrels. Bring in skunks and squirrels to be your audience. I think they're a little bit more predictable because they have instinct. Anyways. So this whole Hasbro thing. I'll pull up this is the article I'm looking at here. I kind of read through it as I skim. Anyways, look at that nice big Hasbro sign there, the corner of a nice big building. They did make a point here. Where was it? They did talk about, they addressed why they're doing it now. Yeah, it is Rhode Island. Yeah, here we go. There will be moderate impacts on employees in Rhode Island, Global Corporate Communications Director Andrea Snyder said. Blah, blah, blah. Hasbro to... Okay, we're talking about the closings. That must be the big fancy building. Cutting cost measures already happened, and then they mentioned that they did cut 800 jobs just this January, this year. So they've been cutting a lot, and I can see it. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not going to say I'm the catalyst here, but I've noticed in the last 3 or 4 years that my behavior, because you have a propensity towards this stuff, or a penchant for this stuff, is my behavior seems to be go inside, and not by my choice. Like I said, it's almost like instinct. Like I'm, following the trend unconsciously, but it seems like everything that I've done kind of it seems like it's going with the flow. So when the stuff got super popular, suddenly I'm into this stuff, because it's in my face and I see it and whatnot. And then as soon as the stuff starts to kind of tank, same thing with Dungeons and Dragons. I got popular, I got back into Dungeons and Dragons, and suddenly it started to kind of wane. And then there's lots of situations like with the D&D Beyond, that type of thing, and then suddenly my interest kind of falls. I'm pretty. I guess I'm being very predictable, and I'm following what the trend. I gotta say. I mean, I think the biggest problem. Not the big. I keep saying that. That's not what I mean. I think a problem is that there's nothing really, for me personally, I don't know about you, but for me, I don't see anything I really want, especially from Hasbro. There's nothing really out there. I mean, the Transformers they're putting out now are kind of, there's a couple, 1 or 2 here and there, but the thing is, I also bought everything I wanted, and I'm not going to re-buy it again, If I got Jetfire, right, which I'm very happy with Jetfire, I'm not going to go buy another Jetfire. So I pretty much have bought, remember, for me it's the movie figures, and for the most part I've got all of them. I got the 3 Dinobots I had as a kid. Maybe I want to get the other 2 Dinobots, maybe? I mean, I've looked for them on clearance, but I don't have to have them now, The Rodimus Prime would have been nice. I haven't seen that going on clearance. So like I said, there's a few things that I would still like to have in my collection, but I've got it all. And, it's like, oh, we're going to come out with it again. Okay, I'm not going to buy it again. Oh, but we changed it. What did you really change? Right? You changed the box. You gave him an extra gun that you didn't have before. You took away a gun, that I liked. I don't need to buy him again. And the thing is, I got to say, the first product, even though I like the product and I'm happy with it, it didn't change my life. So, getting a slightly different variation of another Jetfire or Dinobots is not going to change my life in any significant way. At least not for the money that they're asking. And I'm not going to pay, $10, $20 more now because the stuff's gone up in price. It ain't going to happen. So what's the point? And same thing. I've got all the He-Man guys I want. Sure, I'd like to have the back of the Battle Ram. Sure, I'd like to have the Dragon Walker. That's it. I don't want anything else. The Attack Track. the regular toy, not the new crazy thing they want to make. The attack track, the Dragon Walker, and the back of the battle ram, and that's it. And if they make it, they make it. I'll buy it down the road. But it's definitely not. It's not like I'm constantly spending here to keep that up. GI Joe, it's GI Joe seems to be the weakest, and that's Hasbro, and they've kind of fumbled the ball so many times on GI Joe that I don't really know. I'm just kind of like, I don't think I'm gonna do it. What do you call it? Even for NECA, the what do you call it? I was at Meijer getting groceries yesterday, and they had the Xerox, the Hobgoblin Thief. They had him right there. It's like, oh, he's $35. Is what he normally costs. It's like, oh, there he is. I could get him, and I could have him for my collection. And I'm just like, got it in my hand, got money in hand, and I'm like, I can't swing it right now. I don't have this cash. Has got to go to something else, and and I'm like, I can't justify it. It looks cool, looks great. I love to have it, but it's like, I know it's probably going to go on clearance eventually because they make so much of this product. It's going to end up at Ollie's. It's going to end up on Amazon for clearance. It's like, I hopefully can get it for like $15. Then I'll buy it. Same thing with Strongheart, and then Elkhorn's coming out. So like I said, I'm just waiting on this stuff. I know it's if you don't buy it now, you're never going to get it. It's like, maybe. That could be the case. And I don't know about Warduke right now. I don't know if he's discounted. Yeah, so I'm assuming that my mentality right now with this stuff is probably a lot. Maybe not the diehard collectors. Maybe not the rich people that seem to have more money than God that can, buy this stuff, all these people on YouTube, it just seem to just have, mountains of cash just to blow on all this stuff. I don't think that's the majority. I think that's just like the economy. It's like 1%. Or sorry, just like, the people, U.S. population. I think 1% of the toy collectors can spend ungodly amounts of money on every possible thing that comes out. I don't think that's enough to keep the lights on at this Hasbro building. They need everybody. They need everybody to buy a significant amount, and like I said, I think the majority of the people aren't buying it, obviously, because their numbers are down, and they're stuck with all this excess product that's ending up at Ollie's. So, you can go into all the stuff about Hasbro specific, the quality control issues. Yes, the Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon figures. It looks like they're made like garbage. Okay, so you can take into all the quality control issues. You could take into all of the the price hikes on everything, and everything's gone up so much. You can take into the fact that they're not really making product that anybody really wants. So there's not one thing. Like I said, it's a perfect storm. It's a whole myriad of reasons that are affecting this, and management must really suck. And I said, I've been calling this on Hasbro for the last few years, and I'm just not, like, literally, I do face palms every time they do one of these like releases or these, and they talk about this, and I'm like, what are they doing? Oh yeah, we're gonna bring back O-ring figures. Oh, that's a good idea. That's where I would buy that. That's where I would open up my wallet, as on O-ring figures. Then they come out with a couple. They look fine. How much are they? Ooh, that's pricey. Huh? Are they all gonna be like this? No, because we're not going to make any more. We give up. They fumbled the retro wave, which was okay. I would rather have the O-ring figures, but I started on the retro wave, the Walmart exclusive, fumbled that. Then they did the O-rings, fumbled that. The only thing that really was a success for them, in quotations, is classified. And again, I've probably said this a million times. I don't want 6-inch G.I. Joe figures without vehicles. And I don't want to pay 6-inch prices with 6-inch price vehicles. I don't want to pay $350 for a HISS tank. I paid $25 for the HISS tanks that I have, and it came with a driver, 3 3/4 inch, the retro. Okay, I'll pay twice that much. I'll pay $50 for one. That's it. That's as far as I'm going. 3 3/4, 6-inch, twice as much, twice as big. I'll pay twice as much for it. I'll pay $50 for it. I'm not paying $350. I think it's $100, or I think it's over $100 for this vamp coming out. Just like, really? You should have came out with the vamp a long time ago, for one thing. And now that you're coming out with the vamp, now you want crazy money. Now it's, of course, it's coming out when everything's high. It's just like, the cycle when it comes to the driver, and that was like $45. I know you can probably find it on discount, but the thing is, I'm just saying, is this stuff is, I find that the classified, they fumbled the ball again. And they fumbled it with that. I don't think that Hasbro has any business making their own product when it comes to G.I. Joe. I think the Transformers stuff was pretty decent. Good job on that stuff. But again, that's kind of spiraling out of control. Star Wars, forget it. I'm not even going to talk about Star Wars. Star Wars is Star Wars. Mattel did a great job with He-Man. I find that they're kind of in a weird situation, and they're kind of they didn't really fumble the ball, but they really, I feel like they're just throwing shit against the wall right now. See what sticks, and that's fine, I guess. But I'm not gonna jump every time they announce some figure that I don't want. Yeah. So like I said, my collection's kind of where it's at, and I've got kind of what I like, and again, it's not changing, it's not rocking my. I'll enjoy the stuff, and I'm appreciative to have it, but at the same time, it's not it's not the nirvana that I probably thought it was going to be. And so there, I know that now, so why spend more money to just kind of continue the same fruitless endeavor? So, yeah. So, again, I guess this technically, and same with Dungeons & Dragons, because Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, so technically, I guess this event doesn't really concern me so much, because I stopped buying way before I heard this information. I gave up on Dungeons & Dragons way before I heard this information. Like I said, as you noticed watching my videos, I kind of pivoted to record collecting, and that's kind of getting out of hand now. And I think that the prices on that stuff's astronomical. And I've been trying to find the stuff used, and I've been finding it. I want original pressings. It doesn't have to be like the original pressing, just a vintage pressing. It doesn't have to be the what do you call it, the reissue. I don't mind if it is, but I don't want to pay, much more than $20-$25 for a reissue. I don't really want to pay that. I'd rather pay like $10, $15. So just like, back in the day when I got all those records, I didn't buy them all full price. I bought them all for $1 a piece at Sam's Jams. And that's how I kind of like to do it. Problem is, I don't have a car right now, so it's hard to get to the record store. Sure, you can go on Discogs and all that stuff, but those people are not selling them they want collector's prices for them. And again, there's a whole fiasco with the whole Discogs that kind of pissed me off. So, I don't really, I can't really get to everything. And there's not a lot of record stores around. There's one in Midland. There's one in Saginaw. Right here in Bay City, we've got 3 record stores. They're pretty decent, but I don't get to them that often. There's record stores down, in the Detroit area. I might hit up 1 or 2 when we go down to for Christmas next week. And there's some stuff I'm looking for, obviously, and maybe if I find it, I find it. If I don't, I don't. But I'm not really that like I said. That's right now for me personally. I've got to hit the brakes on everything. I'm in damage control at the moment, and I need to play damage control. And damage control for me, just like Hasbro, is they gotta find a way to make ends meet, and they're obviously making ends meet. Like I said, I'm not trying to diminish what they did to a bunch of people at Christmas time. I think that's horrible. I would be rightfully pissed, and I feel bad for those people. But I'm assuming, I'd love to talk to some of these people too. I'm assuming a lot of them saw the writing on the wall. That's not always the case. I've been at a job, when they shut down Sears, when I worked for Sears, I kind of knew it was coming. I mean, I knew I could read the writing on the wall. I realized there's no customers coming in the door, and we weren't making any money. I mean, didn't really come out of nowhere, but it was one of those things that when it does happen, when they say, hey, we are shutting the doors, it's just like, oh, I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know it was going to happen at the same time. I think probably a lot of these people are sitting in the same situation. They're like going, yeah, we can't keep operating like this. And then they're going to shut the doors. And then they come and say, yeah, you're going to shut the doors. and you're out of here. It's just like, I saw it coming, but maybe false hope. Maybe that's what it is. You're just false hope, or you're delusional, thinking like, oh, maybe it is going to rectify itself. And I guess it's not being delusional, because maybe it would. Maybe it did. But, like I said, I'd like to talk to these people and ask them, what they thought about the situation. Like I said, I've done this. I've done that before. I lost a cruise job, same situation. Money's down, cut everybody, me included. I've been laid off from Sears. I've been laid off from a medical lab. I've been laid off from, I would say probably I closed the gym when I worked at the gym. I was there till the day, basically they locked the door when I went to work the next day. I've closed down a lot of places. I thought it was a curse for us. I was like, Jesus, everywhere I work are going to go out of business? Maybe it's just the places I choose to work seems to be it's not that good of a choice. I don't know. But I've been there. I've been where these people are, and it sucks. And trust me, I have nothing but sympathy for them because I've lived it. And I also noticed they're talking about in this article, they're talking about severance packages and stuff like that. And they're lucky because the only time I ever got anything was I lost the cruise job. They owed me about $1,500 of commissions that they didn't pay out yet. So they paid me that. And they gave me another $1,500 in severance pay, which was at the time that was a month's worth of work, or 2 weeks worth of work, whatever. It was more like a month worth of work back then. That was back in 2001, that was the only time I ever got anything. All the other jobs, it's just you're SOL when it happens. You don't get anything. The best you can do is go hit the unemployment line, and that's exactly what I did. And like I said, I've done more tours on the unemployment line than probably a lot of people have done tours in Iraq or Vietnam. And I'm not planning on doing any more unemployment tours because that's why I work for myself now. So it's all up to me to sink or swim. And right now I'm treading water. with a treading water I can feel a strong undercurrent grabbing my feet. So right now I'm in a dangerous situation. So yeah. So like I said, I'm not going to diminish anybody losing their job for this. And I was watching Mike from Retro Blasting. He mentioned, that I didn't see the comments, but he mentioned people, were very dismissive of it and going, oh well, hey, they're very spinning it in a positive angle, and it's just yeah, I kind of agree with him. It's just I'm not a positive person. I've been notoriously and habitually negative person, a negative Nancy my entire life. And, it's just from life experiences. I've seen it. I'm 50 years old. I've seen my share of shit, and I've noticed that, it's hard to be optimistic about things. I wouldn't spin any of this stuff in a positive manner, even if, let's just say hypothetically, this whole thing for Hasbro turns them around and they right the ship and, they're back, they're back in, what do you call it? They're back in the roaring 20s again, the Depression's over. Does that diminish the fact, you fucked over a lot of people? And does that diminish the fact that, like I said, corporations are entities, and they will eat their own tail. That's just how it is. I can't say it. I want to be dismissive and say it is what it is. But at the same time, it is what it is. I mean, that's how corporations work. And unfortunately for a lot of people, or fortunately for some people, very few, you know, that's just how corporations work. I think I said that already. You know, what can you do? You know, I guess can you, as a person, you can do nothing. You know, if you have power, maybe you can do something. But you know what? If you have power, or if you're beholden to anything that's giving you said power, you're kind of, again, exactly that. You're beholden to whatever. And unless you just have, like Elon Musk, you know, he's like, you know, says fuck off to all the corporations. Well, there's not a lot of people in that position who do that. Me personally, if I was Elon Musk and I had Elon Musk money, yeah, I wouldn't give a rat's ass when anything happens. You know, I could comfortably live, beyond comfortably, right, for the rest of my life, and so could my children, or my child, for a long time on a fraction, a small fraction of what Elon Musk has, right? So, if you're in that position, yeah, I could give rat's ass what anybody else says. I'm not in that position, you know. So there's a very few amount of people that are in that. I would say most people who are, you know, on that top scale, they can't say that. They have to be positive and put on a smile every day and act like everything's great. Because they're beholden to whatever powers it be, and I have noticed that corporations specifically, corporations work a lot like high school, or elementary school, or school. You know what I mean? You got to have a happy face on all the time, right? And every time you say something that sounds negative, and usually you're right when you say it, everybody's like, oh, shh, don't say that. They poo-poo everybody. They frown upon negativity. It's just like, you know, it's like, hey, I'm just calling it for what it is. And if you don't want to see that, you know, it sucks to be you. But the last thing I want to hear about it is that I'm being negative when I'm right. And you're being negative because you're fucking out of your mind. Right? So there's that. And I think, sorry, I went on a real long tangent here. But I think that, yeah, the whole negativity thing is, I'm sick of hearing it. I'm sick of hearing people talk about negativity being bad. It's just like, why am I right like 90% of the time? Right? Oh, you just can't look at it that way. Well, why? Because it's not healthy. I'm not dead. It hasn't killed me. I don't have cancer from negativity. It's like, is it really that healthy? It's just shut up. That's what they're saying essentially. Just shut up and quit talking is what they're saying. And that's kind of what I find that the corporations are like. Is you can be a rusty nail or thorn in their back and point out the obvious constantly in any given situation, and at the same time, all of their mental gymnastics just basically comes down to shut the fuck up and go home. I don't want to hear it anymore. You're bringing the place down. You're killing my buzz, man. That's basically what they're saying. So that's what it is. So again, I'll watch and see how this pans out. And like I said, I'm keeping my eye on the toy industry and the action figure market and stuff, just because, like I said, even though I'm currently on a prolonged hiatus of my own spending of it, I still watch it. I mean, it's entertaining, and I'm interested in it, even if I'm not buying anything. I think I've got enough self-control now to not give in to any of the FOMO or any of that stuff. I mean, hey, if they come out with all of the Dungeons & Dragons guys, and I don't have the money to buy them, guess what? I'm not getting all the Dungeons & Dragons guys. They come out with Hooked Horror that I want it really bad, and the Fortress of Fangs, they come out with all that stuff, all huge, massive, and it's astronomical money. It's just like, I don't have the money. And even if I did, I don't really want to pay those kind of prices for it. So, like I said, there's certain things that I feel justifiable or think is a good price, and it could all come out. That's the thing that's so stupid. It's like with the You know, like the Cat Slayer. It's like, oh, you know, if the Cat Slayer came out in 7-inch Ultimates from Super 7, it did, or it's going to. How did you think it wouldn't, right? But you see how much it cost? You really gonna plunk down, you know, after shipping and all the other bananas and stuff, you're talking what, $800, $700 and some dollars on a Cat Slayer? I don't care if it makes coffee, you know. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I don't care if it does. It's very serviceable to you. You know, I'm not going to pay that kind of money for it. You know, if Fortress of Fang came out for the Dungeons and Dragons guys, and it's $650 plus tax and, you know, and shipping and all that stuff, guess what? I ain't going to buy it. It's that simple. So even if I have the money and I have the money to blow on it, I ain't going to pay that kind of price for it. You know, there's other things that I could put that money for that probably make me happier and will fill that empty void in my soul that I would think that the Fortress of Fang would, but it probably won't. I mean, like I said, I was debating getting this guy lots of times, and I even pictured, it's like, oh, if he's sitting on my desk, he'd look so cool, and he'd make me so happy. And I'm not saying he doesn't, but now the reality sets in, and I do have him, and he's sitting here on the desk just like I imagined in my head. Got a pretty good imagination. You know, I spent the $35, okay. I wish I would have gotten a better deal on it, but I'm just saying it's not, you know, it's, what do you call it? I mean, I look at like the Leo James guitar I got there, you know, the Les Paul copy. I really wanted that. I've got it now, and I'm happy with it. But, you know, it's just like when you think about I guess the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Is that the right analogy? I guess when you think about the stuff and, when you think about the stuff and you imagine how happy it's going to make you, and then when you end up getting the stuff, it makes you happy, but I don't think to the level that you had built up in your mind. Talk about being delusional. You know, and like I said, if you're going broke doing it, it's not a good idea. It's not healthy. I guess it's not healthy. Did I say that before? It's going to give you cancer. It's going to kill you. Oh, it could, maybe. I don't know. I guess worry. And what do you call it? Ulcers. You know, or psychosomatic illnesses because you're worrying all the time. Maybe it will kill you. Maybe being negative will kill you. But anyways, so that's all I'm going to say on that. Again, you know, those are just my takes on the whole thing. I listened to a lot of these people online, watched the videos, read their comments and stuff, and I see where everybody's coming. I think some people are a little off base, and some people are delusional. I think some people are blindly optimistic. I think some people are overly non-caring, or definitely don't seem to have any empathy whatsoever. I'm not gonna make this as a. Sorry, I'm gonna make the statement, but I don't mean anything by it, and please don't take offense to it if this is you and your situation. But adult toy collectors, they're a little unhinged, and they're a little touched in the head, right? Can we agree to that? They don't seem to be the what do you call it? The bastions of clarity and whatever, and sanity. I'm not going to go into detail on what people specifically have wrong with them. You know, I'm not going to go on there, but I'm just saying, is the adults who buy toys are not the sharpest crayon. No, it's not. Some people are very smart. They're not. They're a rare breed, and that rare breed doesn't always act like how people should be. You know, you probably know where I'm going with this. There's probably a lot of people that are afflicted in a certain way, and those people usually, historically, or clinically don't have human empathy. And so I'm assuming that's probably the case in a lot of cases. Again, people get online and they just start spouting stuff off because, again, you can't reach through the computer and punch somebody in the nose, so you can say what you want. And, it's bravery. It's Roger Waters said, it's the bravery of being out of range. So, yeah. So that's, you got to take that into account, too. When you read these comments or you hear people's take on stuff, you just got to realize you've got to be sympathetic, or you've got to be understanding to realize it's like, okay, toy collectors are a little unhinged. So when they may say unhinged things, I'm not surprised, and therefore it should not affect me, Again, that might sound dismissive too, but I mean, and saying it is what it is might be dismissive, but I'm just saying it's just how things are. I think a lot of people don't like to hear this. Trust me, I know ex-wives and girlfriends cannot stand when you say this. And so when people, they want you to fix the situation and they want answers to everything, and you give them the answer, what can you do? People don't like to hear, what can you do? And at the same time, what can you do? They want you to fix it. That's what they want you to do. And guess what? Can't. So what can you do? But the answer nobody wants to hear. So let's close on that, because what can you do? So, let's see, when is this going to post? This is going to post on Monday. So I think I'm going to try to make another video over the weekend, and then I'll probably post on that Wednesday morning before I leave. But remember, I just want to let everybody know, also, like and subscribe. Remember, do the business. I don't know why I'm pointing at my Wacom. I'm pointing at myself on the Wacom. I don't know what that means to get you to like and subscribe. But anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, next week. So next week, obviously, Christmas, and I'm going to be heading out of town. So probably won't be posting following Friday or the following Monday. Maybe not even Wednesday. Maybe it depends if I get one. I'll probably have another one done so I can post it. But anyways, yeah, so I'm going to be gone for a while. And I'll talk to you before I leave, but I'm just kind of keep reiterating that so people know that if you see me go, MIA for a few days, it's obviously it's Christmas time. It's just what happens, people. It is what it is. That's what people have to do. They have to take some time off, so that's what I'm going to do. All right, I'll catch you later. All right, bye-bye.